Good morning. Right now it's 9:08. I'm excited. It's Monday, and we're going to be talking about Grippon Gardens. I got Justin here in studio, and we're going to be learning about everything that he has going on. What's up, Justin?
Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing pretty good. Right now, I'm going to be honest. I feel weird because the headphones were goofing up, and usually I have stuff going through my ears, but I'm doing good. I'm glad you're here. And
I'll just roll with the punches.
I see a lot of information going on. And can you let me know, what do you have going on?
Yeah, so, I'm the owner of Grippon Gardens. It's a family-owned business in League City. Our company, as Landscape and Grippon Gardens, has been there since 1951. So we're going a couple of years strong.
1951, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's more years than I have under my belt. So,
Yeah.
But thankfully, family knowledge runs deep.
Yeah. So
But
you were born into it.
I was born into it. So my family started a company called Lynn's Landscaping, and then 2 years ago now, we broke off the garden center as a separate entity and branded it as Grippon Gardens.
Grippon Gardens.
And so now that's my little baby right there, and it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. Can you let me know if I haven't had the opportunity to go?
Yeah.
So I walk in, what can I expect?
So right when you walk in, you're gonna be entering kind of like our mock-up area of different projects. So one of our big things that we do that is kind of unique to our place is water gardens.
Cool.
So we have a bunch of different water features, water gardens, koi fish on display in real time, so you can see, as an example, how you could maybe do a project on your own property, buying all the material yourself and doing it, or having Lynn's Landscaping do the entire installation for you. But these are mock-ups, so you can kind of see how it would actually look in real life. We can do putting greens out there, just about everything, and it's a lot of fun. And of course, we also have all of the plants and shrubs and trees you could ever imagine or want there on the property as well. So we do have the full service garden center and all the products that come with that stuff.
So y'all have been there for 51 years.
Since 1951.
Since 1951,
Yeah.
So even longer.
60-something years, yeah.
And you were born into this.
Born into it, yeah.
Was it a passion in the beginning? At a young age?
Actually, it wasn't. And I guess it's just kind of, I don't know, something about growing up in it. It's kind of like the status quo. You just kind of are used to it. You wake up every morning and then boom, there's a garden center out your front door. It didn't initially strike me as the lifelong dream of mine, but then kind of as I got older and took more of an incentive role in the business, it really became evident how much I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And actually my first footsteps getting into the business was through irrigation. So when I first started working with my dad, I went to some state schooling and got licensed as an irrigator, and then just kind of fell in love with how we use and abuse water in the world, and realized pretty early on that I really do have a passion for the environment, and that just sort of morphed into now what I'm doing with plants and everything, and it's all tied together.
That's awesome. We're going to go ahead and switch it over to the FM as well. Right now we're hanging out with Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, let me know what you got going on. Today it's Monday, so there's a lot of opportunity this week. If you have any goals, if you have any plans, let me know. Also, let me know if you've been to Grippon Gardens as well. So here we go. We're going to swap it to the FM.
Pit Stop Barbecue is a proud partner.
Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Right now it's 9:12 on a Monday. I'm Gardy. I got Justin Grippon here in studio, and we've been chatting a bit on the FM about everything that you have going on. So you've been in Grippon Gardens your entire life. Can you share, where are y'all located at?
So we are located right off of Highway 96, or some people know it as League City Parkway, between Highway 3 and I-45. So if you're familiar with where the League City Sportsplex is at,
yes,
we are just like a quarter mile down the road from that, right off of Highway 96 on a little road called Pecan Orchard Road. We're set into a very old development that's been there since maybe the 40s. It's a large acreage kind of community, and we have 5.5 acres of land sitting in there.
Yeah, since 1951, League City's changed a lot.
Holy crap, yeah.
Yeah. Especially 96.
We have some pictures of the property out there from way back in the early days, and it is weird. So League City did not used to be filled with so many trees, right? This whole area was open prairie grasslands for the coastal region. Like it wasn't like it looks today. I mean, we have pictures looking out from the back of our property, and you could see from, miles, just open land. And now it's just full of trees.
Yeah. Which League City, I know at one point it used to have like a tree, like in like the crest or the steel or one of the logos.
Well, so the Butler Oaks, that line Main Street right there, have always been the kind of the iconic calling card of League City.
Mm-hmm.
It's the city of the majestic oaks. And those oak trees that line Main Street, I think those were brought in by rail car back in the early days of the town.
Okay.
And kind of become the keynote thing in the city, and over 100 years old now.
Yeah. But even with like all the growth, all the boom of population and business, y'all have been able to, stay there strong for like 60 years.
Yeah. It's been crazy. I mean, we have a very large map in our the hallway of our office that shows the Bay Area that at the time, and I don't know when the map date was, but it's got to be from like maybe the 80s or sometime around there, because like there's like no streets on this. I mean, it's just open land. Like you look at Clear Lake and you're like, I sort of recognize this, but like, where is everything?
Yeah. That's weird. I can't even imagine. Like I live in Link City, right? And I grew up in this area, but the growth, here's the thing, it's not disturbing, but from the statistics that I've heard, like League City's not even close to being done with the growth that they have.
No, we're like just a hair over 50% built out for our total land access area.
So that's kind of nuts.
It is.
How do you see that, playing out, especially with the business?
Well, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So like, if you live in a community, you're not the biggest fan of development because you're like, hey, I got here, now you guys can stop building so I can enjoy it, right?
We're done, yeah.
But in the same token, like, you don't want to stand in the way of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think progress and development can be a very good and beneficial thing, but it has to be done smartly, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to get ourselves into a situation like Houston did with the Addicks Reservoir and all the flooding issues that they've got. When we're doing development, it needs to be done with some intelligent thought in mind, so that way you are putting a net benefit for the community and certainly not a detriment to it, especially when it comes to flood control. Holy crap.
Yeah. There's a mutual friend that we have, AJ, from Hippie Fertilizing, and one thing that he always stresses is like the biology of the soil.
Oh, yes.
Why not do things that are organic to help the earth at the same time? So especially with all the building, I think it's even more important for people in the community to listen and to do that.
Absolutely.
And one thing, that he had pointed out, I had never thought of before. He said, hey, whenever you have healthy soil, the grass and the earth can potentially take more water.
Again.
And if everybody does that, it can make a difference whenever it comes to heavy rains and potential flooding.
So that has to do a lot with like when you have all of the microbes moving around in the soil. You've got, earthworms and stuff in there that's all breaking up and it's loosening the soil. And then you have the roots that are penetrating deeper. So it does break that soil layer up further and deeper down in the soil. So it literally can retain more water. So like when rain falls on it, the soil will continue to absorb water for a longer period of time before it starts running off into the ditches. So like I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure it's pretty astonishing. If you just took all the yards in Lake City and if they were all organically maintained and had a higher soil absorption rate, they could potentially stave off a lot of flooding.
That's cool.
I mean, it's so cool.
So what does it take to have like a organic yard? Like what can I do to make a difference in mine?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is definitely come by the garden center. So that way I can show you about all the different products, but you want to get onto a really good organic fertilizer solution for starters. You certainly don't want to use any harsh weed killers, like, say, for example, something that has glyphosate in it. I won't say any brand names, but we all know who has glyphosate. And then stay away from those, because weed killers are going to harm the biology of the soil.
But there's some that say, hey, it fertilizes, it gets rid of bugs, and it does like everything, and that looks good to me. It sounds good.
So you're talking about something that would be like maybe a weed and feed type product.
Yeah.
So a weed and feed is, in many people who are into the organics and that whole kind of solution, would urge you not to use a weed and feed type product, because it's like an upper and a downer for your yard at the same time. So it's like you go to your local bar and you're like, I want a coffee I want a Red Bull and a vodka at the same time, right? So it is literally like giving Red Bull and vodka to your yard. So it's excited, but it's also depressed at the same time.
It's not a good mix.
It's a terrible mix.
Doesn't really end out well.
No,
like ever. So
it's not good. And it often will stress your yard out. It's not a net gain. It may have some very like quick kind of highs for your yard, but they're not going to be sustained at all, and it's going to fall short.
Yeah. So I see some branding like MicroLife, which I've heard of this before.
So MicroLife is without a doubt the Cadillac of fertilizers in the organic world that currently is available on the market. We kind of struck the geographical lottery with MicroLife because it's distributed all over the place and it's made right here in Houston. So we have very easy access to it. The guy who made it, who created all this stuff, his name is Mike Sarant. He is literally like this beautiful mind, like Bill Gates' mind when it comes to like organics. Like listening to this guy talk, like your eyes will kind of glaze over the first couple of times because like his intellectual level as far as the organics and how the biology works is so high. It's almost kind of tough to hear it all for the first time. But then once you've kind of listened to it a little bit, you're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Like, why have I been using chemicals this whole time? It's so dangerous. And this stuff is like literally you could take any of these MicroLife products that they make, go and dump it in any river of your choice, and no hippies, no, organic, earth people would have any problems with it because it is all biodegradable. It is totally safe for all plants, fish, and animals. Like they literally use this stuff at the zoo with the animals in the pens. Like it's safe enough for the animals to eat it. Yeah.
How many products do they have? It looks, well, I'm seeing like even some samples, but they have a lot.
So I did bring some samples. So let me just show you real quick. And these are, by the way, these are for you guys to take home and play within your own yards.
Okay.
But the MicroLife Multipurpose is their original product that they introduced to the world. It is their most cost-efficient product to use. It's their general purpose. It's good for anywhere pretty much in your yard. It's not super specific to like individual needs. Like if you've got something going on, like for example, say you were growing some citrus fruit, right? So for citrus fruit, you would want to use the MicroLife acidifier. Now the difference between these two is very, very minute. So the base of this is 624. So they're going to work very, very similarly, but the fortified ingredients is where the difference is. So how it balances the pH of the soil, some of the micronutrients, the alfalfa fish meal, things like that, those are specifically tailored to plants that need to have or are citrus or have a little bit higher acidity level in it. But they all have a lot of similar stuff like humates. They all have molasses in their molasses. That is like, I don't want to say it's like a secret ingredient because everybody knows about it, but it is like one of the more crucial aspects of the MicroLife, I think, because the molasses is feeding those microorganisms that are in the soil directly, so that way they can in turn supply the plant with what it needs.
Wow. Does that mean molasses is good for you, like as a human?
Yeah, and actually, food grade molasses is totally okay to put down in the ground directly.
Yeah.
So the kind of molasses in here is there's a couple different like distillation processes that which molasses can go through. I believe the one that they use on the MicroLife is called blackstrap molasses, which basically just means it's not, you could probably eat it, probably wouldn't taste that great, but it's still molasses. The kind that we get is much more refined for human consumption.
Yeah.
Although you could probably eat this, it just wouldn't taste very good.
Have you heard of hippie juice?
Hippie juice, yeah. So MicroLife actually came out with a product. I don't even have it here because it's so new. It's only been out for like a month or two. and it is literally modeled after AJ's hippie juice. So like his hippie juice has been so popular that Microlife was like, hey, we're going to make a product now that it is your stuff.
So if I was AJ, I'd be a little mad, or like he probably, for him, I feel like he cares like the cause. If he can spread more awareness and have like a good product.
Well, and it's like, you know, like they're definitely not hurting AJ at all. Because like his whole thing is being able to like really care for your yard specifically.
Yeah.
And everything is tailored to what issues you're having. So like his hippie juice, he mixes in these giant drums that he's got on his truck, and then he goes out there and he hand sprays it and everything. The stuff that Microlife has that's modeled after what he's doing is in these little jars. So it's more like a spot treatment kind of thing. So it's certainly definitely not
he does the whole yard. He's
doing he's taking care of your whole yard. But if you do need like a little spot treatment, the soil and plant energy stuff that they have is really fantastic. I've actually sent it out with one of our regular customers who is like on the whole organics approach for everything, and he's actually like demoing the product right now for me, so we can get some real life results that we can kind of use it at our garden center. But let's talk a little bit more about the different fertilizers here.
Okay.
So the Ultimate Fertilizer, Humates Plus, and Brown Patch. So the Ultimate Fertilizer is my personal favorite. It is without a doubt the most robust and complete one that they have. It'll give you a quick green up on your yard. So a lot of the greening that we see in yards going from like the yellow spectrum all the way through a dark green is thanks to the nitrogen. So the nitrogen is your first number here on a fertilizer packet, and it's the Ultimate is the highest number.
So 8. So 8. That's their high. Okay.
Yeah. So the eight is the nitrogen, and then you have the phosphate and potash, and the 8 is going to give you a lot. It's going to do the lion's share of the greening up of your yard. Like I took this packet and I put a little bit of it the other day on some mandevilla vines that we had at our garden center that were looking pretty crummy and had been looking pretty crummy like all summer. We just kind of had them back in like our little hospital section. I just kind of like my little project to play with. You know, we're not selling them or anything, just kind of having fun with it. I like to kind of dilly a little bit with plants and just mess with them. But anyways, I put like just a small handful of this directly onto the pot, and literally in like 3 days, blooms exploded out of these plants. And I haven't seen them bloom the entire year.
Wow.
Like just out of nowhere, just boom, bloomed. And like their blooms are amazing.
So would that be the nitrogen that helps with that, or?
Yeah, so that's actually just going to be kind of a combination of all these products mixed together.
Okay.
So it's the nitrogen, it's the potash, it's the phosphate, and it's all these fortified ingredients here. So it's really the whole product. And then like Microlife does have a whole regimen of actually things that they recommend using if your approach is to get something to push some blooms out.
Yeah.
So they have a whole sheet here for getting color on your yard. So like if you had, you know, a bunch of beautiful roses, for example, or you had some azaleas.
So that's like a stack. 1, 2, 3. Use these.
Yeah. So it really, it makes it really self-explanatory here. You know, you just get this product, and this product, use them all, and then boom, you have literally the most intense blooms you've ever seen in your life on the plants. And I can personally attest that these do work, and they work extraordinarily well. I have not ever, in all the time that I've been doing this, I have never seen a product deliver what it says it's going to do as well as this does. And it, you know, there's not a risk of like burning it. So, you know, like one of the things that you have to watch out for when you're using like old school chemical fertilizers is if you overdo it, you can literally kill the plant.
Burns the yard.
Like, it'll just
say, right?
die.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just overstimulated. With the Microlife stuff, that's not so much of a concern. Like one of the Microlife reps that we deal with, he actually shared a story with me that was like ludicrous to hear, because like this is not the way that, you know, the industry looks at things for fertilizers. But he had told me a story about a church that had came in and was getting some Microlife from them, and they were doing like a little project for their kids, and the lady who was wasn't like super knowledgeable and stuff. She was just going off of like a little sheet that somebody had given her and told her what to do and everything. And she mixed up the quantities amount for soil versus fertilizer and put the amount of soils that she was supposed to put down, but put it in fertilizer. So literally like planted these plants in nothing but fertilizer and like a little bit of soil. And they did just fine. They germinated, they came up, happy as can be. And it was like a 90% fertilizer mix.
Wow.
Like if you did that with chemicals, it would never do anything. It would just be dead. It's pretty incredible. So you do have obviously trying to get color, the easy 1, 2, 3 step for color. And then this time of the year is brown patch season.
What does that mean? What is brown patch?
Brown patch,
I feel like I have it.
it's a fungus, right?
See, that's not good. I don't need fungus.
No. Nobody likes fungus. Well, okay, so here's the thing with fungus. So fungus or brown patch is prevalent during this time of the year, and kind of like, once we first start getting our cold fronts all the way through to like freezing period is like your brown patch season. And the thing is with brown patch is it's a fungus, and fungus likes 3 things. It needs it to be cold, dark, and wet. All 3 of which are prevalent
In
this
our
time
area,
of the
huh?
year. So, if you have like an irrigation system, you can even get brown patch during the summer because in relativity, it's cooler at night, it's dark, and if you have irrigation, you're watering sometimes at night.
Aren't you supposed to do that?
So the way that you do your irrigation to prevent this is to actually water in the wee hours of the morning right before the sun comes up. So we do want to water without the sun up because we don't want to have to worry about the sun like baking off all the water we're doing and just like immediately losing
Just
to
wasting
evaporation.
water at that
right?
point, yeah.
But you want to get it done right beforehand so that way the water gets down into the ground, not having to worry about the evaporation, soaking it up first. And then the sun rises and immediately bakes off the remaining water on the leaves.
So what time? Like 6 a.m. or 5:30 or something?
So you would want to schedule it, depending on how big your irrigation system is.
Mm-hmm.
You'd want to have that scheduled to where your last zone of the irrigation is finishing up like as the sun is coming over the horizon.
Okay.
So I don't recall what time the sun rises. Maybe
I
like
don't know
7
either.
o'clock.
I'm not up. Well, I'm up, but
6:30. But like if you had your watering done by the time like the sun started like feeling hot, that'd be fine.
Okay.
But yeah, so brown patch, it's a fungus. This stuff here that Microlife sells, it is really great because you don't have to go out and buy something specifically to fight brown patch when you have it. You can use the brown patch fertilizer and it takes care of your fall fertilization needs, but also has fungus fighting elements in it. So it's going to prevent that brown patch from taking off and going nuts this time of year.
So you can use that as a preventative for the brown patch,
right?
Even if you don't have it, and it knocks
Absolutely.
out fertilizing, and you're good to
Yeah,
go.
it's like why not?
Yeah.
Like you have to fertilize. You're supposed to fertilize your yard in the fall. So if you're going to do the fertilization anyways, you might as well use something that's going to give you a leg up on the brown patch from even taking off. Just beat it before it even starts.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's what you would put on your yard.
Oh, absolutely.
Personally.
Yeah, I think, and that is kind of like the approach in using organics. Everything is like you're doing all these things to prevent a problem from occurring. You're taking the first strike against the issue. So, you're improving the health of your yard, you're improving the structure of the biology, you're improving all these things to make your yard more resilient from having issues that could arise, like brown patch chinch bug, just fill in the blank.
Yeah.
All these things.
Can we talk about those chinch bugs here for a bit?
Oh,
we
God,
talked about
yes.
this a little bit off the air.
Bane of humanity right there.
Yeah,
man.
they're the worst. I didn't even know what they were. I moved. I've been in my house now for like 3 or 4 years, but before I lived in League City as well, and my yard got destroyed by chinch bug. I'm over here like I didn't have an irrigation system, but I'm out there like it's my first house and like watering the ground. Like, what's going on? This is the worst. And turns out it was chinch bugs. I had to replace the entire grass.
Mm-hmm.
And then they happened again 2 years ago, and me and my dad replaced the grass. And at that point, I was like, this is really hard work. Like it was like a corner, got it taken out. But they keep coming back. What can I do?
So first of all, I would not recommend, if you can have the means to do so, letting somebody else mow your yard, right? So the the easiest and most common way that chinch bug is moved into your yard is by landscaping mowing crews who go from yard to yard to yard, right? So the chinch bug gets on their blades, gets inside the mower, then they come mow your yard, and boom, you got chinch bug, right? You did nothing wrong. It just waltzed right over, hopped a ride on the lawnmower, and boom, you got it.
I never even thought about that.
So if you have the time and the means to do so, I highly recommend just mowing your own yard. You know, it's not that bad. You know, sometimes it sucks during the summertime, but, you know, just...
Especially like my neighborhood, all the yards are just like,
yeah,
and you're done. But yeah,
I mean, if you live like out in Whispering Lakes or something, and you have like 3 acres worth of property, like I get it, you know, okay, like that's probably not the most fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you've just got like a small residential, you know, yard, like it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I know most people do it, but it's not always like a time thing, you know, you just maybe not have the time for it. But that's why, you know, give your yard the best defense that it can have. The best defense is a good offense, right? So if you give your yard the most complete and solid approach to defending itself, the healthy biology in a healthy organic yard can defend itself against most things that would attack it. So like the fungus, the chinch bug, the healthier your yard is, the better it can ward those things off, including weeds. You know, like weeds, we didn't even talk about weeds yet. So weeds are like, you know,
it's like the only thing that can grow with it. Like the chinch bugs will take out like all the grass, and the only thing that's there, seriously, is just like weeds. And I'm over there pulling them up, trying to at least.
So weeds are such an interesting thing, right? So, you know, weeds are just like this common name that we have categorized things that we just don't like, right? It's like if a beautiful dandelion was growing in my yard and I didn't like it, I could call it a weed.
It's a weed, right?
You know, if I like Bermuda grass and I don't like zoysia grass, and some zoysia grass starts popping up, I'm like, oh, that's a weed. There's nothing wrong with it. Just a plant that I don't like.
I didn't put it there.
But what we commonly refer to as weeds are types of plants that grow as volunteers, and they don't require a lot of depth of biology in a soil or depth of soil at all. Weeds have a really critical role in like the progression of a environment, going from like, you know, desert all the way up to like river valleys where you have like the most fertile soil in the world. And you have just incredible growth of high quality plants. But your weeds play a really critical role in that early development of an ecosystem, because when you're going from a very arid environment where there isn't really any soil depth at all, you need to have weeds there over hundreds and hundreds of years to grow and then die. And then as they die, they decompose, and eventually that soil layer starts getting built up of basically their remnants, leftover plant material. And as that builds up over the years, you start getting plants that need or can only flourish in an environment that has a more depth of soil and more organic material to grow into. So those weeds are really critical in that early stage. But when you have weeds in your yard, you're like, why would I have those weeds there, right? So weeds, remember, they are like nature's first line of creating a soil at all. And they don't need a lot of nutrients to sustain themselves, and they don't need hardly any soil to do it. Like you can grow weeds in like crevices of rocks. So if your yard is unhealthy and it doesn't have a lot of depth of soil, or it doesn't have a lot of biological activity in there, you have just taken away all of the nurturing things that are needed to sustain your grass there. And since you don't have a lot of nurturing for the grass, which needs it, your weeds are going to jump right in, because they're like, hey, I was perfectly built for a volatile environment. There's a volatile environment. Let's go grow.
Wow. I'm learning a lot as well today, because there are weeds in my yard, especially like where those chinch bugs were. How do chinch bugs work? Like, do they eat the root, or are they taking the moisture, or what is it that they're doing, and how do they destroy the grass?
So I'll be perfectly honest. I am not the biggest expert on chinch bugs.
Yeah.
I hate them. But I'm not I don't know exactly what they're doing in there. I know I've looked in some ways of fighting them. Like I was just at a trade show in San Antonio last week, and I was looking for some stuff that we could bring into the garden center to fight chinch bugs that's done organically. Because there are obviously some chemical approaches for fighting chinch bug out there that you can get, but the problem with most of the chemical approaches for it is that they're often not selective. And so when you try to fight chinch bug, you're also causing a detriment to the other insects and stuff that live in the soil, right?
The biology of the soil.
Right? It's all about the complexity. The more diverse our soil environment is, the better that it is going to be able to withstand things. So, even though we don't like chinch bugs and they do cause a detriment to the yard, it's sometimes challenging to fight them specifically without also causing harm to the other ones. Now, when I was at this trade show in San Antonio, I did find a couple of products that we're going to be looking further into bringing in. We're trying to negotiate some pricing down so we can make it actually a viable solution for customers, and they don't have to break the bank to get this stuff, because when you're fighting something specifically like that and you're doing it with an organic approach, some of those things can get kind of costly. And so it's always when I look at bringing new products in, I'm like, okay, could I see myself buying this at a retail price?
Yeah.
Like, what if I walked into Walmart and I saw this, would I buy it? And if I can't say yes to that, like, it's not worth bringing it in, because then I have to work on super hard to try and convince somebody to spend money they don't want to spend. And, I want to help people. I don't want to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow. You mentioned something earlier off air as well. I believe that a lot of the times people look at organic and think dollars. They think of, man, this is expensive, but that isn't necessarily the case when it comes to using products like MicroLife.
Yeah. So, if you did like a direct side-by-side comparison to, let's say like they're my favorite product, the Ultimate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you took the Ultimate here and you found a chemical fertilizer that had these exact same top numbers on it here. So it was 846. You would most often find that the chemical version of an 846 is going to be less costly for the bag price. But the thing is, you have to consider is the total upkeep of your yard, right? So when you look at a cost evaluation of what it takes from year to year to maintain your yard, so fighting against chinch bug, fighting against brown patch, all these things that often occur when you don't have a balanced yard. Those things are all cost factors you need to consider when you're evaluating how much does it cost me to maintain my yard from year to year. When you do that cost analysis using organics like MicroLife,
Mm-hmm.
the total cost of maintaining your yard significantly drops using organics versus using chemicals, because you don't have to worry about constantly needing to water your yard, right? So the soil absorption rate is better. Your plants can sustain themselves much longer without water because their roots run deeper, so they have more access to water than they would otherwise. So all these things start falling into place that ultimately make it cheaper to use organics than use chemicals. Chemical fertilizers have a lower upfront cost, but they cost you more in the long run.
Yeah. Do you work with people that maybe don't want to use organics? Like if somebody comes to, Lynn's and visits you at Grip On Gardens?
Yeah. So we don't carry any other fertilizers except for MicroLife. I refuse to sell them just because I know the detriment to it. Maybe not the most sound business plan, but yes, business is there to make money, but at the end of the day, I care about my community. I care about what's going on the ground. And I refuse to even stock the chemical fertilizers. No, when it comes to some of the other things, we do carry a few chemical products only because we haven't found a viable organic solution for them yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always trying to find organic solutions for everything. Fortunately, the industry has been sort of slow to adopt some of those things. For example, weed killers, right? So
yeah.
Broad spectrum weed killers. Most people are familiar with glyphosate, which is common. Most people know that as Roundup. Some of the pro versions of that are like Honcho, Ranger Pro. You know, they're all glyphosate, just different quantities of it and concentrations. The glyphosate as a weed killer works extremely well. It is a really comprehensive weed killer, but if you start looking at the warning label on the back of it, it is like reading a book of things you should not do with it or shouldn't touch it, like wear eye protection.
It's not
wear,
good for you.
Wear gloves.
Yeah.
You know?
I've used stuff like that to kill like poison ivy.
Yeah, it'll kill anything it touches.
Yeah.
So it's a systemic in the way that it hits it. So when you put it on something, rather than it just being on the surface of that plant, the plant actually takes it into itself, and it will kill all the way down to the bottom of the root. Like it gets essentially like intravenously into the plant and literally just stops the entire life process. You know, all the chlorophyll dies out. Like it's just everything. But like the warning list on it is terrifying. I mean, don't touch it. Don't breathe it. Don't look at it.
Yeah. And then if you consistently do that, you're going to have potentially get issues.
Yeah. Well, there is quite a string of lawsuits that are involved pending. It has actually driven a lot of cities to completely ban glyphosate from even being used. Like a lot of cities on the east and west coast throughout California and then Florida. Actually, I just was talking to some people at the trade show I was at early last week that had an alternative to using Roundup or glyphosate, and they were actually manufactured in Florida, and they were telling me there's a lot of Florida cities like Miami, for example, completely banned glyphosate, cannot use it.
Do you ever see anything like that happening here?
I think eventually it will. I would love to see glyphosate not be used here because at the end of the day, like it's not good for our watershed, you know, especially in a place like Houston, where we are so close in proximity to, you know, the bay and all the fish life that's in there, and certainly don't want to put anything in the ground that we know it all washes back to the bay and it's going to harm that marine environment. And there's plenty of information out there that says that stuff is certainly not a benefit to those environments. You know, people can debate as to what harm it does or doesn't do, but it certainly isn't helping those environments.
Yeah.
So you know, when you're looking at things from an organic approach, you know, I always try to err on the side of caution with that stuff. I'd rather assure that I'm doing a benefit rather than potentially doing a negative to the environment, even if we don't know what that negative is potentially.
Yeah. So what's the Monarch joint venture? I'm looking at this and I see, well, Monarch, I'm guessing the butterfly, but what's that about?
Yeah, man. So monarchs are super cool. There is a whole like society of people out here that are like all about like caring for the monarchs. You know, we sit directly on the route that they take down to Mexico in the fall and then back up to the Canadian border in the spring. And milkweed is their food of choice. So during the spring, we actually will stock and sell milkweed plants at our garden center. And like we will just be covered in monarch butterflies. It is literally like the coolest thing. And like people who are really into it, like it is like raising like a little child. Like my fiance, she got to practice or like raise some of them with me this year for the first time. And she was like, oh, this is like my little baby. Like we're taking pictures of it and like Snapchatting it and stuff. But it's super cool. And so like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, issues out there with non-native milkweed that is kind of like invasive to our area. So these monarchs, you know, the reason that they're moving south or moving north, aside from the cold, is they're following their food source, right? So different types of milkweed, which is the chosen food of choice for monarchs, it dies off depending on where you're at, north to south, at different points in the year. And it's different varieties of that same plant. So at the end of the day, it's all milkweed, right? But the different strain of milkweed, which it is, which all have different names, they die off at different times, and they follow their food source south, and then eventually all the way down like the Mexico City kind of central area. But like the one that's native to us here, let's see, we are southeast region. So like the butterfly weed is probably the most commonly known one. It goes by Asclepias tuberosa. It is the most widely used one, but the problem is that there is a non-native one that looks extremely similar to it, and it doesn't die out in the wintertime, right? So we need the milkweed to die off in the wintertime. They come back in the spring, but they need to die back so that way we don't end up falsely confusing these butterflies and like,
they need to go and move where they're supposed to go.
They don't need to be here for the cold,
Yeah.
right? So if we had milkweed that was hanging out here and just loving it during the cold time, then these butterflies would be like, oh, well, my food source hasn't died, so like, why should I fly all the way to Mexico? It's a long freaking ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff right here. I'm going to stick around. I saw there was a yard in Lamarck, not too far from here, that won Yard of the Month from the Keep Lamarck Beautiful Coalition, and it was an official monarch butterfly habitat.
Yeah.
And the yard, if you don't know what you're looking at, I could see someone being like,
it's a weed.
What's this? What's up with this yard? Because there's a bunch of flowers. The grass was what I would call grass, but it was just like plant, and I'm guessing nothing but milkweed.
Well, so milkweed, in the name says weed. It's not the most beautiful looking plant. Like it's not there to look pretty. It's there for the butterflies.
Right.
It's kind of lanky and ugly looking. It's got little bitty flowers on it. They're real susceptible to getting aphids on them. So you got to fight against aphids. Like it's work to maintain a butterfly garden and maintain all that milkweed. Like you have to have a reason to do it. Like you're not just going to stump. You're not going to accidentally like, oh, I'm going to grow a little butterfly garden here.
Yeah.
Like you have to want to do it because it is work to upkeep something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping the aphids off the milkweed, and like people in the butterfly world, they aren't big fans of the aphids, like, but the aphids they're not like the world's worst thing, right? So it's all part of the circle of life, like if your goal is to like really have that habitat and you want to get the caterpillars and the larvae and everything to grow, like, yeah, you're going to want to get rid of those aphids and you want to do it without using chemicals. So most of the time you have to like use soapy water and wash them off or just squish the aphids and, pinch them off. But if you just like let life happen, the aphids are not terribly harmful because they're part of that ecosystem. They have a place because they're food for like bees and wasps and mud daubers and stuff. They'll come in there and eat off the aphids. It's food for them. So it's all this kind of balancing act. It's what's good for one thing may not be good for another, but most of the time nature just has a way it's working itself out.
I got you. So if someone's looking to get started, whether that's, hey, I want to have a lot of butterflies in my yard, or I want to make a difference and see if there's a different way, the best way is to go pay a visit to you guys.
Absolutely, yeah, because we carry a full garden center full of plants, right? And so all of the plants that we have are either native specifically to Texas or native to like our climate region, right? Mm-hmm. So in our climate region, I consider our climate region really like from like Florida to the east and like Arizona to the west, right? Like that's kind of like our southern region. Now there's across Texas you have some variation because like parts of Texas are like very arid going out towards like New Mexico, and then we live in an extremely wet area. So like there's some things that work here but don't work over there. But like especially like going to the east, it's very consistently a wet environment and warm. But even like north to south, like where we're at right here, you can grow some non-freeze hardy tropical items here that you can't grow in Conroe. They will die because it freezes in Conroe. Like the freeze threshold line is very weird throughout Houston. Like you can have queen palms growing in Galveston, but if you planted a queen palm up in Conroe, it's going to die every year. Can't do it.
So everything that y'all carry for the most part, it should be good to go here, or do y'all carry some stuff that's like, well, it'll be okay, it may die?
Yeah, so we do carry a couple of those kind of questionable items because they're beautiful. Like queen palms, they're not super hardy, but if you take precaution and you protect them during the wintertime, you can grow a giant, beautiful, 50 60-foot queen palm someday. You just have to be knowledgeable. Like, hey, if it's going to freeze, like, you need to take action to protect it. And thankfully, we don't really freeze hard here. You know, it's not like up in Conroe.
I freak out. Like, whenever they're like, there's a freeze coming, it's like, what does this mean? I got to wrap my sprinkler system, my plants, you know, and it's a freak out, and I'm always concerned. Well, I'm really concerned because last winter we had a freeze and it busted the pipe at my sprinkler system.
Yeah.
And I thought I did everything. I went and wrapped everything, turned the water off. I watched YouTube probably like 15 times the video over and over.
Yeah.
And I guess I did it wrong, but I'm trying, I guess.
So what you're talking about is probably a backflow preventer, and the most commonly used around here is called a pressure vacuum breaker. It has a little bell on top of it. And that little bell is the part that'll explode in a freeze.
Ding, ding, ding. Psh.
Yeah. But the easiest way to think about freeze prevention when it comes to your irrigation system is getting rid of the water, right? So most times people will just like shut the water off and wrap the pipes. Like, oh, I turned the water off. Pipes are like, it's fine, right? Like, protected it.
Yeah.
Not true. What you need to do is actually, there's two little valves on the side of those devices that you can turn, and it'll allow the water to drain out of the body of the device, and that's where the trick is. So you have to get the water out of the little chamber in there, because the piece that'll explode is plastic, and it's designed, the pressure vacuum breakers are designed to have a failure point, so that way you don't sacrifice the entire device, which is all brass. If you sacrifice the little plastic piece inside, they make a repair kit that you can use to replace that if it does explode. And it's really, really easy and cheap to do.
Yeah.
So they know that, you know, freezing is an issue, so they design them to fail in a specific way so that it can be fixed rather than it being an uncontrolled failure.
Here's what I did. I got a screwdriver. The video said, okay, turn this screw, or like, you know, there's two knobs, turn one this way, shuts it off, and then, you know, do another one, and then you take the screwdriver and it all this air and water comes out, and, and then it stops. So then I got this big old insulated blanket. I wrapped it around the entire thing. I taped it. My neighbor did nothing. And I called him. I was like, hey, man, it's supposed to freeze. Do anything? He was like, oh, yeah, I'm not worried about it. His perfectly fine.
No.
Mine, I did everything I thought, but yeah, it busted. Sometimes it's just like that.
Well, this winter, if we freeze, take all those little screws that you turned open, make sure you leave them open and open to the air when it freezes, because when ice forms, it expands, right? That's why it breaks stuff. So you want to have a way for that ice to relieve its pressure and expand out into the open, or just into an open void, so that way it doesn't cause anything to fracture.
I goofed.
Yeah. It's totally okay. You'll get it right this time.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Or like, you know, just call me like, Justin, I forgot what you said. What do I do? And I'm like, it's fine. Here's what you do.
I'm going to go live on Facebook and be like, somebody, and I'm just like tagging you, like, everybody tag Justin Crepon, and we're going to make sure that he like walks me through this and be like,
man, you know, that actually might be something fun to do, to like maybe
before the freeze
bring in. I could bring in a demo of one of those backflow preventers, like the most common one used, and I can like show everybody on there, like, hey, this is what you do to not cost you like a couple $100.
Yeah, there's probably a million Facebook neighborhood groups, including mine, that would save a lot of money. But the plumbing people, they come out, they're cleaning up, like, I got you, you know, $300 a pop, let's go.
Oh no, I mean, we do the same thing at the garden center. Like, we can sell you the little repair kit. It's, you know, we can go out and do it for you. Like, but you know, like, it's like the double-edged sword, right? Like, we have a business to make money and turn into profits for everybody who's working there. But at the same time, I also care about my community, and like, you know, like, I want to make a difference, and like, that's a little way that you can make a difference. Like, just because you can make a buck doesn't mean like it's the right thing to do. Like, there's a more right thing you could do, and that'd be to like show people how to not get into that situation.
Yeah, but people, even if you know, you just don't always listen.
Yeah.
So I think there will always be the people. It's like, if it happens, it's meant to be, and then, you know, you just have to fix it later.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I want to tell you about two more things.
Okay.
All right. So mycorrhizal. This is something that MicroLife came out with this year, and it is like seriously like the coolest product like they have. Mycorrhizal, it's kind of hard to explain it, but the best way I've been able to explain for people to like kind of understand it without getting like super nerdy about it is when your roots are down in the ground, right? The roots are there to absorb nutrients, absorb the water. The mycorrhizal essentially makes the way in which those roots obtain the nutrients better. Like, and it does it like almost threefold. Like if you just like took a plant and the nutrients and you figured out what the rate at which it was able to receive those nutrients, if you added the mycorrhizal, that absorption rate would like triple. And it just makes everything you're doing with the fertilizer, the bioinoculants, all that stuff you're putting in there to strengthen the plant, it makes the plant better able to access all that stuff.
Just sucks it up even more.
Just sucks it up even better. And like that's probably the most rudimentary way I could explain it. It is quite a bit more complicated than that, but like literally it's like the coolest product. I mean, I try to get everybody when they get onto organic stuff to invest in this one. It's not expensive at all, and it literally like can triple the value of how your plants can utilize all the stuff you just put down in the ground. It's so cool.
Wow. And it's an interesting name. I don't think I would, like, looking at it, I don't think I'd pronounce it that way. I wouldn't know how to pronounce it, but mycorrhizal plus.
Plus, yeah.
Cool.
I had to learn about this product. I did not know a whole lot about mycorrhizal prior to this, and then I listened to Mike Saran, he's the brain behind all this stuff. I listened to him describe it to me, and it's just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
So is that more for like you have a plant or a tree or something specific, you pour it like spots and then treat everything?
No, yeah, you can use it as a spot treatment thing where you put it on like just a tree or something. I would say it's more commonly used for like when you've got an area that's maybe like floundering a little bit, just not really having a good time. And you would put this there plus your normal like stuff that we would recommend for like actual fertilization and like getting the root of what's problem is. This just amplifies the effects of all that stuff. So that way it brings about, the solution quicker, better,
Yeah, that's awesome. And was there another product too?
Yeah. So let's see here. It's actually a weed preventer or killer. Boom, there it is. Okay, so we have two products that we stock at the garden center that are an alternative to using glyphosate as a weed killer. And one of them is this really cool product called Miramichi Green, right? And this stuff was actually created by a golf course company. So
they're known for having like really good grass.
Yeah. So, and think about it, right? So like a golf course, like the big part of their business is ensuring that they have a really high quality turf for people to play golf on. I mean, that's their bread and butter. If they have issues with their turf, like that's a big problem in their business model.
Yeah. If the green is brown, it's no point.
It's no good. So, a golf course is looking at, what is the most cost effective way as a total approach to do something. And a lot of golf courses have found themselves in a position of actually using organics because, like I said in the beginning, it is more cost effective to take that approach than constantly having to deal with the negative things that can come about. You have to deal with it later on in the yard's life with all of the infections, the funguses and all that stuff. So weed killers, remember I was telling you how the chemical weed killers, they also harm the biology of the soil. They're not doing any benefit there. This stuff doesn't hurt any of those things. But the way it works is very different from using like a glyphosate weed killer that is a systemic that gets intravenously into the plants. This stuff, it burns it from the outside in. So when you put this down onto the ground, it's going to kill whatever it touches, but it kills it from contact, right?
Not the roots.
Not the roots. So it's think about it like putting a blanket. So plants need to go through photosynthesis. So think about it like you're putting a barrier on the plant that breaks the photosynthesis process. So literally just starves the plant to death and then it dies can't reproduce.
Yeah, I'm looking at this photo, and they outlined an area, and
Yeah.
it just the outline, because if you were using something else, it wouldn't be contained to that area you treat.
Yeah, and that's because this is contact based. So you have to when it's wherever it touches it, that spot will, it's like putting that blanket on it. It stops the photosynthesis process, burns it up. So we carry this, and then we also carry vinegar. So vinegar is like this amazing, almost like household like secret to killing weeds, right? There's a couple different like home remedies for like weed control to like do it without hurting the soil.
Mm-hmm.
Vinegar is one of those. So like we carry 20% vinegar jugs, and literally you can just like pour that directly onto or spray it onto wherever you got, and it works just very similar to how this works. The way that they actually work is a little bit different, but the concept is the same. It's burning it from the outside in. So it's like, like I said, putting that blanket on the photosynthesis process, stopping it, kills it. And then home remedy that most people are not even aware of, you take boiling water and you pour it onto a plant that you're calling a weed, it'll die.
I've done that with ant piles, and I don't know if it works or not, but I'm just like, this boiling water it has to do something.
Yeah, it'll do it for the ants too. I mean,
it's
basically just roast them.
Yeah.
What
about, okay, I hate ants. I have kids, and I want them to play in the yard, and I don't know if they do any positive for the grass or the biology. I don't know, but
you could certainly make some arguments that like some ants, like tree ants and stuff, do serve some very beneficial needs. Personally, I think that like fire ants, the pain that they cause when they bite you, in my opinion, way outbalances any benefit that they could possibly have. Because like I've had my fair share of run-ins with fire ants, and I can tell you I would not like to have had any of those, and I just want to kill all the fire ants.
Yeah. Is there a way to organically do that, to treat them?
Yeah. So we actually carry a product at the garden center. I didn't bring anything about it today, but it is actually a totally organic solution for fire ants. Like, it's totally fine to have around your kids and your dogs, but it will tear those fire ants up.
Yeah, that's good. Because I've tried a lot of stuff, and then I've honestly like called professionals and been like, I don't know, just get rid of them, and I know what they're using. I don't know what they're using. Is the issue.
Well, if it's like locally common ants, what we have will take care of it. The ones that you have to, and I highly recommend calling a like chemical professional for this, is if you get like those crazy ants, those little bitty ones that just run nuts and they like get into like all the electrical stuff. Those are invasive to our area. We had a big problem with them maybe like 2-3 years ago. They were just rampant all over this area. And like, it was a huge invasion or invasive issue. And all of the normal ways that like pest control companies fight that stuff weren't working. Like, they had to like bring in stuff that's not normally used in order to kill these ants. Like, they were just nuts.
It's like a different breed. They've evolved.
Yeah, well, I think these
Can
this
that
was a couple
happen
years
with
ago.
the chemicals? Like they
No,
adjust?
it's not the ones. The crazy ants, or actually don't recall what their scientific name is. We just commonly call them crazy ants because they just like go everywhere.
Yeah.
But if my memory serves me right, I think they were actually invasive out of China. I think they had. I don't remember how they had gotten here, but they are not native to this area at all.
That reminds me of, remember whenever there was like the African dust blowing in it?
Yes.
Like last year or something. It's like everybody's sinuses are going to be messing up. Maybe some bugs. Who knows?
I don't know, man. It's crazy.
We do have like the ship channel and all that stuff that comes from everywhere. You mentioned chinch bugs going from yard to yard. There's the possibility for stuff to come from who knows where.
Yeah. No, I mean, we, I'm sure that like the chemical companies and the lawyers will like deny it to the end of the earth. But when that big chemical fire thing happened over in LaPorte, we had people coming in shortly thereafter, like telling me their yards were like having all kinds of issues.
Really?
And it's like, is this a coincidence? Like, this is a really interesting coincidence to how it all happened. Like, I got flooded with people right after that, and I was like, something's off here.
Yeah.
But the county commissioners and the mayors and everybody, they were all up there from Houston saying, oh, it's totally safe. There's no problems. it's fine that it smells like gasoline. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So we have Dr. Chapa, and he's a local League City gentleman who has a business called Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center.
Yeah.
And he always talks about having that base. Like, hey, if your body, treating it in an organic way, then you have a better fighting chance. If you don't, if you're not starting at a deficit already, then your body can kind of defend against whatever comes against it. And it's kind of the same way with the yard, from what I'm understanding with you.
It's 100% the same. I mean, your yard, you really should think about it like the way you take care of your own body. I mean, honestly, I think you should take care of it better than we do, because like,
it's going to be here longer.
Let's be honest, we don't always take care of our bodies the best. Often we sacrifice our own needs over like wants and things to do with like friends and family and stuff, and are not always the best caretakers of our own bodies. But like your yard, I mean, it works the same way. If you feed it right, if you take care of it, it's going to defend itself against most things that nature can throw at it. It's not going to have those fungal issues. It's not going to have issues with mites and stuff. It can handle itself. It's not going to, weeds, boom. So Microlife, they actually have this really cool thing that they do on their website or on their Facebook. They highlight yards. I think they do it on a monthly basis, maybe a quarterly basis. I don't recall off the top of my head, but they do like before and afters of yards, and then like really highlight the ones that are like organically maintained. And it is freaking nuts, like the difference between the yards and like how free they are of weeds and how like thick and healthy the grass is. And there's been no weed control. None of that stuff has been done to these yards. It's just that the grass that we want to be there has become so healthy and so dialed into the soil layer that it literally starves out any weeds from getting there. There's just no room for the weeds to even take hold, because the grass is so tuned in to access the nutrients there. There's nothing left for the weeds.
Wow. So let's say hypothetically somebody's been using non-organic stuff. What's the best place for them to start? Does it depend on, with it being the time of year that it is?
So right now, I would highlight, let me just grab this right quick. I'll try to make too much noise. So we have a schedule that Microlife puts out that is like their recommended list of things to do for, different areas of your yard for the fall. So if it was for your yard, for example, you should use either the 624, which is the green product, it's the original brand or original product, and or the brown patch. My personal favorite for this time of year is brown patch. I think your better value is with the brown patch, because you are taking care of that fall, like I said, fall fertilization that you need to get in the yard, but you're also working to preemptively hit at the fungus and stopping it where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
If you were just going to jump into organics right now, you just came by my office tomorrow, I would get you some brown patch. That is hands down the place to start this time of year.
And the bag looks just like this, right? This is just a small version of it, and it's just little pellets. So you just kind of spread it over and then water it the same way you would, one you'd get at like Walmart or something, right?
Yeah, and remember, these are totally safe. So like if you leave this out in your yard and little Fido comes running through the yard and he's like, this smells like molasses, I'm going to eat it. It smells yummy. Totally fine.
Yeah, otherwise that's not okay.
No,
with the other stuff, it's
if
really bad.
If a dog did that with chemicals, like, you need to call the vet and be like, hey, my dog just ate some chemical fertilizer. What do I do? And
then you shouldn't even have your kids out there either.
Yeah.
To make sure that they are totally out of the other stuff. But with this, it's totally fine.
Totally fine.
It looks just like little pellets, like you'd give a gerbil or something.
Yeah, it's great. It's easy to handle. You can just, there's nothing, like, you can touch it, no problems. Not going to hurt you. Not going to hurt the water in this area. So
yeah,
it's just great.
Cool.
No harm.
This is 99.5 FM, KHEA talking to Justin Grappon with Grappon Gardens. Can we talk a little bit about League City Music Fest?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Yeah, we can touch on League City Music Fest a little bit.
So you're part of the League City Lions, right?
Yeah.
What's your role there, especially with the Music Fest coming up?
Yeah, so so we have an organizational committee, like a subcommittee that handles the music festival, and this year I'm the person who is going to be kind of like point sharing that that committee, and we could start working on music festival like right after the current year's festival wraps up. So we start working on booking a music artist, sending out contracts, looking at who we want to start trying to access for next year's music festival.
Yeah.
So
Last year, y'all had some really cool artists.
we did, yeah. And then, I mean, we've had a good run of artists for like a couple of years now. We had Maddie and Tay the year before that. We had Clint Black a couple years before that. I mean, like we've had some good ones. I will tell you without going into any detail as to who yet, but
The people want to know.
I know.
People need to know.
The people that we are in negotiations with right now are going to be extraordinarily well received in this area, especially with some of the people who maybe have been coming to our music festival from year to year, and then especially some of the people who are into more like the Texas country kind of scene.
Okay.
We're in negotiations to get some artists that are really going to get you out there to boot, scoot, and boogie.
Okay. Boot, scoot, and boogie. Is that a hint?
You can take it for what you
Okay.
want. We're not getting Garth Brooks.
Okay.
So
I was like,
I'm
wow,
not
Garth
hinting for
Brooks is
that.
coming to Leaks of Music.
I wish.
Let's go. Yeah. We heard it here first. Okay.
Yeah, I wish that would be fantastic. Like we would need to shut down the city for that. But,
Yeah.
I don't think we'd have enough room even if we could afford Garth Brooks. But
Yeah.
that would be freaking cool.
So League City Music Fest, it's been going on for a while. It used to be called something else, right?
Yeah, so it used to be called the Village Fair. So that I have been going to the Village Fair / League City Music Festival since like in a stroller. That isn't something else that I have grown up in. I'm a 3rd generation Lions Club member. So, it used to always be on Mother's Day weekend. And then, we ended up changing it to just be the first weekend of May because it worked kind of better for having enough separation of time between other festivals and not being like festivals back to back to back throughout, in the area. So we ended up settling on first weekend of May, which works out really great. But it's cool. It's been interesting to watch it grow over the years because, it used to be this little like, village kind of festival. It was small. We had, cakewalks out there and, ring toss on the soda and, something like you'd find in a little country town. And at the time, League City was reflective of that type of environment too. It wasn't this giant city of 100,000+ people it is now.
Yeah. So now it matches as well.
Yeah, and that's really the reason that the name change even happened when it did. We were had to take a step back and look at our festival and like, are we a village fair? Are we reflective of our community? Because League City changed. So we're like, we need to keep up with what is reflective of our community, and we wanted to make sure that we stayed relevant. So we started bringing in some bigger music acts. Unfortunately, it did lose some of that sort of like small town charm. Having some kids out there doing ring toss or throw the pie in the face kind of stuff, and we've worked really hard trying to maintain those things.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it is extremely challenging to get other organizations out there to come do that stuff. And just in case any of your listeners want to know, and I'll just throw this out there to them, we do offer a free booth to any nonprofits that want to come out there and partner with us.
Wow.
Like if you are related to a nonprofit and y'all want to come out and do something, just come message us. We will make a space for you, bring out whatever you want and rep your nonprofit, because at the end of the day, the League City Music Festival is put on to raise money for the Lions Club and its charities. So that is, one of the big parts is we're one of the largest donors to the Lions Camp, Texas Lions Camp in Kerrville, Texas, which is entirely funded by nonprofit like the Lions Club here in Lake City. So all the Lions Clubs around Texas financially support this. We're able to send kids from our area, and we do every year, to this camp completely free of charge. And they have like themed weekends. So like they'll have like a diabetes weekend, right? And so they'll have diabetes and maybe some other issue that kids could be faced with, and they'll have only kids that are dealing with that challenge in their life all come up together. And so these kids are able to go, one, free of charge, but also be around their true peers, right? So like they're able to go there with a bunch of other kids who are going through diabetes just like them. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm not this island, by myself going through this. Like there's so many people going through the same exact thing as me, and they're able to find, make lifelong friends. And it's really incredible. Like, it'll bring you to tears watching these kids. And, one of the coolest things I think I ever, got to encounter out there is they had a weekend there where they had blind kids there, and there was also a kid that had dealing with some issues with his legs. He's paralyzed, right? So he was in a wheelchair, and so hold on, it's one's hard to talk about. So literally, there was this blind child pushing a kid in a wheelchair who couldn't walk. And the kid in the wheelchair was telling the blind child
Like where to go. Like, wow.
I mean, it just will make your heart. It's really incredible to think the kind of change and the kind of things that you can make happen that are good in this world just by something like this. That's why, when we're out there producing this big music festival, everything is done out of the kindness of our hearts. Nobody gets paid to be out there and do this thing. We literally give up a week's worth of time at work, sleepless nights, to produce this thing, and all of it's done because we want to make the world a better place. We do care about these things. It's something to be interested in.
Me and Ethan, we had the opportunity to go out there, and on that day there was a bunch of kids who were allowed to come for free.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think y'all do every year.
Every year. So this is one of my favorite ways that we're able to give back and make a difference in our communities. We partner with CCISD and a couple of the other school districts, but primarily CCISD, and we work with their special needs programs there. And we invite all these kids to come out there. We open up with our carnival that we have. We contract the carnival to come out. Mm-hmm. And part of that contract is we stipulate in there that they are going to open up the rides free of charge for us to have these kids be able to go out there and ride. And we do so with a bunch of community volunteers so that we make sure that, the kids are able to be in a totally safe environment and have an opportunity to come out and enjoy something that normal kids would just go out and do, but we make sure that we have special things in place so that these kids can have that opportunity to go out and just ride a carnival ride. We don't think anything of it. Just go ride a carnival ride. But
sometimes
for them,
take it for granted, maybe.
Yeah. For kids that are, in that program, it's not always the case that it is just something you can just go do. So, having that opportunity for them is sometimes it's literally the first time these kids have ever been to a carnival ride, ever been on spin the apple around, never been on a Ferris wheel. And it's amazing. You see the reaction on these kids' faces. I mean, it's just, if that doesn't melt your heart, like, I don't know what will. It's amazing.
So when is League City Music Fest coming again next year?
First weekend of May. Off the top of my head, I don't know what those dates are, but it is the first weekend of May every year. We'll have usually right around the first of the year, or shortly thereafter is when we go live with our website and everything. We'll have all the music line up. Vendors can start logging in, getting tagged in. You start buying tickets in advance. All that stuff will go live.
So can they follow League City Lions to kind of stay on top of that?
Yeah, so we have a music festival Facebook page, and that's where we do a lot of our announcements pertaining to that, different things out there. So it's incredible.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be another awesome time. Bunch of great talent from all over the world coming in and doing a lot of good for local kids here in our community. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And just to highly encourage when people come out to the League City Music Festival next year, keep that in mind. If you've got an extra buck and you want to just donate it for the cause, buy an extra beer or something, and because at the end of the day, it's all going back to those kids.
The charity, yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about Grippon Gardens?
Yeah, I will. Okay, so here's the fun thing about Grippon Gardens. So earlier we talked about the plants out there. Everything that is out there is, our entire property has a 0 footprint on water usage. So we don't use any chlorinated city water for any of our property. We have a 100% reclamation of water on our property. So the entire property is is graded in elevation to slope back to a central pond where we reclaim all the water that falls from the clouds or the water we pump out to our plants, and we don't use city water for anything out there. So we have a zero footprint on the infrastructure for that.
Wow.
And furthermore, every single plant that's out there is hand selected by myself. So I make big trips out to the farms across Texas and Louisiana and just the general kind of southern area of the U.S. and handpick every single plant that we bring out there. So it's, a lot of places will, have big, freight liners just bringing plants in, right? And I learned pretty early on that I couldn't maintain the quality the way that I really wanted to at the level at which I wanted to be able to bring to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, you know what? I need to take the additional measures to ensure that the quality of our plants meet what I would like to put in my own yard. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to make the trips to these farms personally and select every plant that comes out there. It takes a lot of time to do it.
I was gonna say, it seems like the process, it makes it a lot bigger, but at the end of the day, you have your hand and your eyes on everything that goes through
everything.
There.
And
Very
it makes the difference. It really does. I mean, if you take the product that we sell out there, those plants, and you do a side-by-side comparison to a lot of the places around here, it's pretty clear and evident to see that the quality of the plant is significantly better than a lot of places.
All right. Hey, well, thanks for hanging out this morning. And you're going to have to come back and share about everything else you got going on.
Yeah,
and I need to get out there and visit you.
Yeah, definitely come by. Gardens. Love to see you.
Where are y'all located, and how can somebody find you on social media?
So we're located at 2060 Pecan Orchard Road in League City, Texas. And you can find us online at gripongardens.com. Or you can find us on our social media Facebook page. And we can maybe get you a link to something. Y'all can link us in the video or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we do a lot of our posting on Facebook, actually. That's kind of the lion's share. We'll do different sales. We're going to be starting up for the fall. We're going to be doing flat rate Fridays. So like all of our color that is like seasonal color that you put down in your yard, we're going to be doing flat rate Fridays. So it's a single price for any flat you find out there that just makes you happy.
That's cool. I'm going to have to check it out. Thank you, Justin, for hanging out.
It's great to have me, man.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Good.
It's fun, huh?
That was fun.
Yeah, we're still on Facebook right now.
Awesome.
But if you are watching on Facebook, thank you. Feel free to share this, and if you want to get a hold of Justin, make sure that you hit him up. I know we had put some links in there. Ethan had helped me out and put a link in there as well. So to the website and located in League City for over 60 years.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
We are actually the oldest family-owned business in the town now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. Like the oldest
family-run business in this whole city.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, just think about something like this. Having a family business like this I feel like it's a super uncommon thing these days. A lot of businesses sell out to big corporations or just merge with other businesses, or families are not interested in. To have a business like this that is being able to maintain in the same family like this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
it really is.
Cool. Yeah.
Hey, also don't forget, I brought stickers for you. You can put them on your laptop and whatever you want. Just like, hey, Microlife, it's amazing.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'll find some good spots for these. I need to get some more Microlife. I've put a couple bags on my yard. That I got through AJ. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Very cool. Well, yeah, let me know if there's ever anything I can do, and then any way that we can help with the League City Music Fest.
Heck yeah, we're gonna definitely do some partnerships with you guys on that.
Yeah, so we want to help.
We didn't even talk about wind chimes.
And there's a lot of stuff we can talk about.
We still live on Facebook?
Yeah.
Hey, so Facebook people out there, if you're listening, we have wind chimes for the holiday season this year. And these are all been acoustically tuned to a specific note on the the spectrum sounds. So if you want to come in and get a gift as a wind chime,
That's cool.
where your place.
Does that make it like more attractive to anything, or just
just the way that they sound?
Just
I
to
mean,
hear it?
like literally when you hear one of these, like I don't even have to try to sell these things. Like you just go in there and jing one of them, and you're like, okay, I'm buying it. Like I literally, they sell themselves.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And I think a lot of that comes because they are tuned to a specific tune. So it's very matter of fact the way that they sound, and they are very consistent on that sound too. So I mean, if you ever had a problem with them, you can get it restringed for like $25. You can just send it directly back into the manufacturer. Just call them up and be like, hey, my dog Fido jumped up and broke it. I'm like, okay, we'll send it back to us, $25. We'll restring it for you.
That's cool. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. I keep referring to this mythical dog Fido. I don't think anybody ever names a dog Fido.
Not anymore. Yeah. Cool. And I can keep some of these?
Yeah, actually, I've got a whole bag here, so y'all can, play with them. Those are for you guys.
Sweet. I'm going to go play with them like out here, and I'm going to put some in on my chinch bugs, see if they enjoy it.
All
right.
Bag here.
Sweet. Cool.
Oh, and there's another pin in there. I'll put all these back.
I didn't even notice. This is like it has like the end on it
it's got
to
a
be able to
stylus
do.
for you.
That's awesome.
So there is some samples for you guys to play with.
Awesome. Thank
and
you.
then I will give with that the user guide.
Okay.
So that way
Some
you don't feel
information on them,
lost.
so I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna research some chinch bugs. Like, I want to know if they like eat the roots or just because I always thought like, oh, they suck the moisture, so the water doesn't get to the grass. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that'd be interesting to research. But yeah, if you're watching on Facebook, you have any questions for Justin, feel free to ask them, and maybe whenever you have an opportunity, you can go back and answer any of those. But it's important to take care of pretty much. I mean, the earth. It sounds funny to say, kind of, but the environment. There's a lot more to it.
We only have one Earth.
Yeah.
I would certainly rather do what I can to take care of it.
Yeah.
Within the best of my abilities. I'm not going to stop driving my big old diesel truck. Because it's not good for the environment. But I'll take what battles I can afford to take.
Yeah. You got to move the stuff here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, cool. Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and again, like, hit me up.
Absolutely.
If you have anything going on and I can help promote it, let me know.
Okay, man.
All right.
Great to see you.
Appreciate you. Facebook, thank you guys. Yeah, feel free to share this out. Justin Grappon, a Grappon Gardens, was just hanging out talking to us about everything. So if you have any questions for him, let me know in the comments, and I'll make sure that I get those asked, and we'll get those answered. And we're going to be learning about Viva La Marx, like right now. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So right now it's 10:31. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM. This is going to be a quick little switch as we learn about everything that the Viva La Marx photography has going on. So how you doing?
Very good.
All right.
I brought my stuff.
Cool.
I don't know if I can actually show it.
Well, we maybe can. Actually, if you set it up in that chair, we'll have it in a shot. So that'll be good. So if you're watching on social media, let me know where you're watching from. We are broadcasting from La Marque, and we do this every weekday. If this is your first time to tune in, thank you so much for hanging out. We are located at 601 Delaney Road, and I have to invite you right now to our Talk of Taco cook-off that's happening this Saturday starting at 9 a.m. If you want to come enjoy delicious tacos, this is an opportunity for you, but it's going to be right here at KHEA Radio, and you can search talkoftaco.com to learn more if you want to sign up, because it's free to attend, and you can actually sign up there as well and register as an attendee, but you don't have to. If you want to be a participant in the cook-off that we're doing, it's $100, and you can do that as well. But we're giving away $1,000 of cash. We're giving away some trophies. There's going to be some cool other prizes as well. So make sure that you come out, have a good time. It's family friendly. There's going to be a bunch of bounce houses for the kids. There's going to be activities and games for adults. There's going to be food, vendors. A ton of fun. This is our first time to do this, and we're excited to hopefully continue this every year. We're teaming up with the United Way in Galveston County, Mainland, and help and support all of the partnering agencies that they hook up with. So make sure that you come out. And here we have my guest. So Viva La Marx, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and then let me know what do you have going on?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Gary. My name is Marixa, and I'm with Viva La Marx Photography. I had actually talked to you about I do some generational photos and self-love photos for women. So yeah, that's basically what I've been up to lately. Introducing grandparents to the family photos because I feel like there's not enough of that. So I wanted to invite people over the holidays, hopefully, to welcome grandparents to these family portraits.
So you said, generational photos, and that just means like grandparents and grandkids or just like multi-generational photo shoots?
It can be multi-generational ones. Actually, my idea had initially started with doing, like all women or all guys. And that's what I'm actually showing today, like right here with all guys.
So that'd be like a grandfather, his son, and then the grandson right there.
Yes.
Why do you think that's important?
Well, I feel like they're very involved in the family relationships. For instance, a lot of grandparents take care of their grandchildren while parents are working. And I feel like most of the time over the holidays or any time really, the parents and the children take photos, and the grandparents just receive those photos. Like, why not include them? And also just from personal experience, I have a lot of memories with my grandparents, and I feel like I don't have enough photos about those experiences. So I also want to encourage people to not just do portraits where you're posing and smiling at the camera, but also something that's more lifestyle. So something that you'd have going on at your house. Maybe like if you like to cook with your granddaughter, maybe why not capture that, real life memories?
Yeah. When you say lifestyle, what exactly does that qualify as?
Lifestyle is more realistic and more candid. So it's basically whenever I'm there, but you're not necessarily aware of me, and I'm not telling you to pose a certain way. I'm just letting things unfold before me.
So you'd be like, hey, if y'all are baking a cake or making cookies, let's get some photos of this. Or what do y'all do normally for fun, like outside and play?
Yes.
Capturing those moments that are natural, but in a way that you can keep forever.
Exactly. The main thing here is to inject some of the sentimental value that is personable to the family and not something more post what we're normally used to nowadays on social media. We're so used to like pretty images nowadays.
Yeah.
So why not go back to something more organic, which can happen in your own house.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Hey, we're going to go ahead and switch onto the FM as well. We're streaming on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to share. Let me know where you're watching from, and have you taken generational photos, which I think is pretty cool because I'll take photos like at a family event, but it's not like I've ever done a photo shoot like, oh, my grandparents, me, my mom, my son, and everybody else. So here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Right now it's 10:36 a.m. This is an opportunity where we are going to learn about local photography. We got Viva La Marx Photography in studio. My name is Gardy, and my guest, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then share everything that you have going on.
Hi, Gardy. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Marixa, and I'm with Viva La Marx Photography out of Alvin, Texas. And today I came to talk a little bit about generational photos, which includes basically grandparents into family photos. And if we have time, just talk a little about self-love photos for women and what that involves. So like I was telling you, I saw the need for grandparents to come into the family photos because I often see small children with parents. Usually it just I kind of like winds off after 5 years of like the children's photos. So I feel like people could definitely show their appreciation to grandparents by bringing them into the family photos.
Yeah, and then those are things that you can keep forever because
Yes.
I've seen some photos of just like old photos. You see like these black and whites, and it's like, hey, this was your great grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you see it, and it's normally just them posed by themselves. And I
Yes.
guess photography kind of goes through style. And right now, I feel like with social media being so prevalent, we're almost still in the selfie mode generation, which everybody has a photo, but you're looking, you're smiling, or you're taking a photo. But as far as like getting back to like a lifestyle with generational photos, that's something that I haven't seen like pushed before.
Yes, that's true. And then an advantage that we have today is precisely because it's digital now, you have a lot of opportunity to capture those moments. But also what I've been noticing is that a lot of people are not printing. So we take a lot of photos with our cell phones, but we
Yes.
never print them. So that's another thing that I want to advocate for as a photographer, is for people to start printing. And that's one of my specialties.
Yeah, well, digital photos, like my phone is full of photos, and I, you know,
Yes.
thousands, and
Yes.
they're in a cloud of,
Mhm.
you know, in outer space, I imagine, just like thousands of photos that
Yes.
will probably never be printed. Why
Uh-huh.
is it important to print these photos? Like, and you know, just seeing this, I can
Yes.
kind of, it's different. I don't know. I can see the emotion in the photos. If you're watching on Facebook,
Yes.
you've been able to see some of the photos that she brought in. But why do you think it's so important to print out photos?
So I think it's important, especially for the younger generations and even our generation. I'm 34. This is actually my nephew. He turned 3 this last weekend. I feel like if nobody prints for these small children, they're not gonna have anything to look back into. There's thousands of photos, yes, on the cloud, but when is he going to get on the cloud or your cell phone? If anything happens to your cell phone, when is he going to get back all these memories, you know? In addition, you're putting a third person in charge of your memories. So I think that's very dangerous in a way. You have a third person in charge of your family's legacy, which now the legacy is kind of just being lost. So I feel that's why we need to advocate for printing, so you can own the photo.
Yeah. So is that your brother or brother-in-law?
This is my brother-in-law. Yes. So my sister was not included in the photos because at first my idea was to just do the generational
Yes.
part of it. Yeah.
So that's your nephew, brother-in-law,
Yes.
and then his father.
Yes. And my nephew spends a lot of time with my brother-in-law's father. So he is the babysitter.
Yes.
So that's when I started to see, you know, like, okay, they have a great relationship. It's not being documented. So I wanted to get into that because this is very natural. It's a very natural atmosphere for them, you know?
Mhm.
So that's kind of like what I'm seeking as a photographer, to have a deeper meaning and actually capture these deeper connections between families.
How long have you been in photography?
Like I was telling your intern, I've been doing it over a decade, but as a business, 5 years.
5
Yeah.
years. What is it about photography that kind of brought you in? What drew you in?
Well, I actually started with self-portraiture before the selfies became a thing.
Yeah.
So it was actually depression. So photography was a way for me to express myself. And then I actually got gifted a couple of cameras. Most of my cameras were gifted to me up until maybe a couple of years ago that I had to buy my own. So I think people saw something in me, you know, to keep showing or expressing through that medium.
Yeah. What was the first camera? Like, what did you shoot on to begin with, and where are you at today?
I actually shot with a little Canon camera. It was a film camera
Yeah.
at the time. And then I transferred into the Nikon family.
Okay.
So I started with a D40. So not the full frame camera or anything like that.
Are you like full on Nikon? Because I've seen that with
Yes.
people. They're like, "This is what I shoot on. It's the best," or like, "This I'm in 100%."
I'm not necessarily against or for a brand. I think they're all great. I think more importantly is knowing how to capture the image. I feel like sometimes we get too technical, and honestly, that had been happening to me up until maybe this year, when I started to just seek more meaning instead of being technically correct on
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as your photos go, is that what you're trying to do? I mean, because these photos, they're beautiful. I see these generational photos, and I'm looking at this, and it's like, well, that looks technically correct. Is it technically correct and also capturing more meaning? Is that the goal?
Yes, that is the goal. To not only have the pretty pictures that you're gonna pass out during Christmas or upload on social media, but something that is truly meaningful to your family. That's really my goal. So, and then having them printed.
Yeah.
Which I will do for you.
Before you got into photography, because you mentioned you got into it, hey, it's a way of expression. What other ways did you kind of express yourself? Were you an artist before, whether that was, maybe art or music or singing or anything like that?
I was never involved in anything like that in school. I did dip into oil painting, so I did that for a while. But I felt that photography was always much easier for me. So that's what I stuck to.
Yeah. And why is it important for you to express yourself? But do you think why is it important for everybody to try and find something to express themselves in some way?
Well, I think we have so many things that we can acquire. Technology, like, you're touching your iPad right now. I feel like technology right now is a big thing. But what we got to ask ourselves is that, does that fulfill us? So I think a lot of the things today, I don't know if you've noticed, but whenever it comes to birthdays, you don't even know what to give a person because they already have everything. They have access to everything. Everything has become reachable, accessible in a way. So I feel like photography can be that thing that it's not a thing, it's a memory and it's an experience. So I feel like more and more people are into those types of experiences because we're able to get things, houses, cars. But the question is, are you fulfilled by those things?
Right. And, what photography does, I guess, creates that memory. And here's a comment from Jude Carricker. She said, having actual photos is very important to pass down to future generations. It's a part of preserving our heritage.
Yes. So that's why earlier I said about legacy. A lot of people are not understanding that photography is their legacy. You spoke about seeing maybe your great-grandparents, and I actually forgot to bring a photo of my great-grandparents, but that was also an eye-opener because that photo is over 100 years old, and I was able to meet my great-grandparents through that photo. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah. We don't take enough photo, like getting a professional photographer to come, because I look at some of those, like there was portraits just of people, and they would sit there and way back, they used to paint them.
Yes.
And it's just kind of interesting to see, I guess, the trends that we move through as a people, and as a society.
Recently, I got asked to do retouching with Photoshop for a grandfather that had passed away. I forget the name right now.
Yeah.
But people are going back to those photos, and they see the meaning of them. So reconstructing that photo, that shows that it is more meaningful than anything because it connects to who you are, and you can see the resemblances. I think that's just very interesting.
Yeah.
With your current family members.
Why the name Viva La Marx?
So again, because it started with self-portraiture, my name is Marixa, so it just comes from celebrating Marixa, so Viva La Marx. So now it's about celebrating you, celebrating your life at any stage in your life, actually. So I also do, for example, newborn photography. So I am very open to just creating with you and celebrating that special moment with you.
Yeah, whenever I first heard it, with Marx, I was thinking like Mark, when you're thinking of a camera shot, like this is my mark, my target. This is what we are taking photography in the session. So that's pretty cool, and that's what's interesting about people. But, it's just a matter of everybody has a different interpretation, even what generational photos may mean. It's everybody has a different vision. So it's really interesting to see what your goals are and how you are able to kind of just like make that come to come to pass as an artist.
Yes, I actually do want to feel more like an artist. It's hard, like I said, nowadays with the technology being so accessible to everybody that I don't know, we get too technical, or people get too technical on things, whereas I just want to move past that and have more meaning. And I do encourage people to use that technology, but actually also print those photos.
Print the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Is it easy? Is it how costly is it to print photos? Because sometimes I think like, oh, this
it
costs
is
how much?
It is. That's a very good question. It is. It does cost more. Not the print. I don't necessarily sell you paper. I sell you obviously my knowledge on photography and just all the costs behind producing that print for you. So a lot of times, yes, people are shocked, or they don't really want to do the investment to print. But honestly, people will hardly print. I don't know about you, but you said you had thousands of photos in your phone that you don't know if they're going to get printed or not. So that's what I'm trying to tell people. I can do that for you. That's my job. If I give you the digitals, you're probably never going to get to it. But there is a cost to them. For instance, this one is $50.
Mm-hmm.
So this size right here. So some people may think, wow, that's a lot. But you never think about all the costs behind the business that needs to happen for you to have that print.
Yeah.
So it's an artisan way of thinking about prints as well.
Yeah, I've seen some photographers that ask requests and maybe even have you sign or agree that if you go with them, then you have to print through them. And I think part of the reason that they say is because they want to make sure that the photos that they do has an actual quality,
yes,
opposed to going to somewhere right down the street and
yes,
saying like, hey, can you print this or print this out on a printer? And then it's like, who did that? And they
exactly.
say, it's that photographer. And they're like, not using them,
yes,
because the quality's not up to
yes,
their own standard.
Yes, exactly. So part of it is that that the look is the same. It's the same with editing. A lot of photographers get asked, oh, can I have the raw images? Well, you can't even open raw images if you don't have Photoshop or Lightroom. So you don't need the raw images. You don't need the large files. Like if you're not going to print posters, you don't need them. So it's only if you actually have plans to, I don't know, do a billboard or something that you need the mega files. But otherwise, you're okay with printing 11 by 14s. But honestly, it is due to the brand consistency that normally as photographers, we don't allow something that large to be printed by
somebody
you.
else.
But yeah, because honestly, you're going to find it hard, or you're going to find it frustrating that it doesn't look like it did on the computer or on your cell phone screen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the process that we take care of. We're doing it professionally with labs, professional labs, not the grocery store labs. It's very different. So calibration and color and everything, we take care of.
Are you from Alvin?
Yes. Originally, I'm from Mexico, but I've been in Alvin on and off. I actually did my high school there. And then I left to Colorado for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back 5 years ago, since 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it that brought you back?
My husband.
Is he from here too?
He is. Yeah. I wanted to spend some time with my family because my brothers were in their adolescence stage. So I wanted to come back from Colorado and spend some time before everybody left the house. And then I met my husband. So
cool.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool. And what is it about Alvin? Because I've been to Alvin, plenty of times, but it has like a small town feel, or what is it about Alvin that kind of, I don't know, because you could be like, well, easily anybody can be like, I want to live here, I want to live there, but to pick Alvin again.
When I was younger, I felt like I wanted to live in the city, but as I got older, I felt not as connected to the city. So I'm actually more connected to nature, and I feel like Alvin has that open field, there's more greenery. So I like that more. I like the quietness. So I'm more oriented. If you go into my website or anything, you'll see that a lot of my pictures integrate nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a photographer, you do have access to everything because you can just go like, I'm going to keep going to Houston.
Yes.
I'm going to go to, even like the Baybrook area. And then you also have like strawberry fields, all kinds of stuff in Alvin.
I
and
actually
pastures.
live right behind the Froberg's farm, which I think you're referring to that field.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, they have beautiful flowers out there if you guys want to check it out.
Do you ever get to go, like, does Froberg's allow people to do, like, photography sessions out there?
We actually did the other day. They didn't say anything. It was just among friends, though. I don't know about professional photography.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they have a field of flowers right now.
Awesome.
Sunflowers that are kind of, like, dying out. So you better rush if you want to get some photos with that. And just natural flowers. Just a rainbow, all colorful flowers out there.
Yeah. Last time I was at Froberg's, like, I was going there actually to try and, I think, to do some photos or just for fun or, like, shoot a little video or just go check it out because it's a great place. But we got a flat tire. Like, we pulled in and maybe in the parking lot, got a flat tire, and then was like, we got to go to a tire shop right now. And luckily in Alvin, there was one, like, right down the street. You just pulled out, and it was, like, on the left across from the bowling alley.
Yes, there's a lot on Highway 6. So, yeah we're lucky.
We were very fortunate, and we made it there, and they had to fix the tire. We hightailed out of there. But, man, that was a day.
Yes. Yes. Another thing about Alvin is that it's very community based. So I feel like I'm more community based as well. So that's a good thing.
With the generational and the self-love photos, is there any other things that you see like on the horizon? Like, what is your next task? Or you kind of be like, hey, I'm going to focus on this for now, and if something happens or I have another vision or as an artist something comes to mind, work on that as well?
Yeah, I feel like right now my focus is to really push for the self-love, which actually I don't know if we have enough time to talk about those, and the generational, and then push for printing. Honestly, I feel like that's a big important thing that needs to be thrown out there, and the more photographers that kind of push for that, I feel like the more we're gonna save those memories for the children that are growing up now.
Yeah, self-love is important. A lot of times everybody has imperfections. Even you look at you can find the most perfect person in the world, or what we think is, but inside, there's imperfections, or wish that they could change maybe about themselves, maybe not.
Yes.
But why should we want to capture those, and kind of push through and be like, I love myself no matter what, even my imperfections?
Yeah, so I hear a lot of complaints like that about ourselves. I feel like it's important because there are milestones that sometimes we're not aware of that we reached, or that we were at a stage in our lives where we were looking great or feeling great, and we just never took the time to do that. For instance, in my case, I have a 10-month son, and I thought that I was fat before having him. And then after having him, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, I looked great. But that's just one aspect of things. But there's people who invest a lot of time into their fitness. There's people who come out of situations that are violent, situations where their self-esteem was crushed. So those are also great opportunities for you to kind of release some of that tension or anger sometimes. So it's really up to you for the reasons that you're doing it and who you want to share it with. But honestly, I want to tell people to do it for themselves.
Yeah. A lot of time, I see this happen often, where people are like, well, I don't want to be in a photo, or if we're shooting video, I don't want to be in the video, other than I don't like the way I look on video. I don't like the way I look on photo. Should those people be interested in being photographed, or what is it about maybe gaining, being comfortable in front of a camera that is that important?
Yes, it's very important. And I feel like part of that is the communication that I have with the client before a photo session. I don't just want to rush into things, or if we're doing a boudoir style photography, I want to start with you with some clothes, and then you undress to whatever level of comfort you're comfortable with. So the self-love or like photos about yourself doesn't mean, or a boudoir photo shoot doesn't mean that you're gonna get naked. It means that you're expressing who you are at that moment in time, and that can mean different things to you. It doesn't also mean that I'm gonna upload them to social media. So maybe people are also afraid that these images are gonna be somewhere posted. It just depends on your level of comfort again, and those things will have to be discussed previous to the photo session. So sometimes people may just want something more intimate, and that's really also what people call them, intimate portraiture.
Yeah. All right, we got about a minute left before 11 o'clock. How can somebody get a hold of you, and is there anything else you'd like to share as well?
No, to get a hold of me, really through my phone number, 281-677-0934, and my website, vivalamarksphotography.com. And I'm very active on Instagram and very active on Facebook, but I'm Viva Lamarx everywhere.
All right, and that's M-A-R-X?
Yes.
Viva Lamarx, M-A-R-X. Thank you for hanging out today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Be blessed. It's Monday. Go do something positive.
Sorry, off the air.
Almost.
Okay.